let's continue. So now that we have inspected our data, looked at the automatic marker were well set in the timeline, that we have added some specific custom marker that we need, or if we need in the timeline. Now we need to move to a first pass of visual analysis of the data for one participant, right? So there are a bunch of visual analysis available in the system. They're mostly used for somehow a qualitative inspection of the data, right? To understand visually the data you're collected. So to access those visualization tools, you need to go ahead in this tab and click on Visualization. So in this tab, you have a bunch of different options, and we'll go ahead with it. We'll start with the dynamic tools, and you have on the top right a heat map, a scan path. These are the main two visualizations that you should start with. So the first one, the dynamic, is that we'll set here the timeline, and we'll press play, and you will see that with the gaze we have a visualization of somehow the intensity of visual attention at different places on the screen, and as you can see, it accumulates over time, right? So what is red is really intense visual attention, and it's like a topographical map, right? These are like mountains, right? So as fixation is accumulated in a certain point, some of the region become more red and more red until reaching like the more light green on the left-hand side of the scale. So this is a way somehow to analyze dynamically how attention was accumulated over time. There are different tools here. You can do it here only with looking at the fixation, and it disappear over time. And as I previously had, you have this accumulation over time of attention. So that's one way to look at things. It builds on the whole duration of this single event for the participant, and maybe another more useful way of looking at it is a static mode. So if I click on the static mode, this is up until the end, right? So this is the whole event, right? That lasted about 2 minutes for the participant. This is the overall fixation gaze of the participant on the stimuli. So we can see, visually that the 2 points that were that the participant attended his attention for the longest are the flag and the face of the clown. And to some extent, many other places on the stimuli. But there are also places where the participant almost never looked at, right? So for example, on the shoe on the right-hand side, there was almost no gaze on this specific event. So somehow this visual observation of the data will let you know of where the dispersion of attention of the participant over the overall stimuli. So that's an interesting way of looking at things. Also, a second one is the scan path. And the scan path is interesting because it helps you to kind of understand the heuristic of the participant as they try to solve the problem. So let's go back at the beginning of our task, and if I press spacebar, now you'll see those fixation points. But if I accumulate them by clicking on this button, it almost becomes like a kid's drawing following the number. And it helps understand, the back and forth and what was the heuristic of our participant to solve this problem. So as I move back and forth, I become more aware of how did the participant go ahead and solve this problem, and you'll probably see that all the participants have a very different approach at solving the problem. So this is an interesting way, still qualitative, to compare, but again, having an understanding of how the participant ended up solving the task is an interesting insight as a researcher before you even start analyzing the data. So I'm going to stop here. It is possible to export those files. If I go to static and I go to heat map, for example, this is something that is very useful for maybe presenting in your article or maybe the report that you're building. So you can go ahead and export. It becomes a JPEG, and we have quite a high resolution for this. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the same folder of my stimuli, and I can open it just to show you that it recorded. It's right here. So you see I have a nice figure where I was able to have as a background layer my stimuli, and the upfront layer this gaze, this heat map of visual attention of the participant on my stimuli.